Here's a few thoughts. I think that multiverses are not just overrated, it's worse than that. There's something deflating about the premise of a multiverse. When I say a multiverse, as it's meant in science fiction, what I mean is that the idea that there are just an infinite number of parallel realities. That, parallel realities are splintering off every split second. Like in another reality, I would have gone through this yellow light and maybe crashed. And that would have, in that world, I would be in the hospital now, or after, soon. And then in another world, maybe I left a few seconds earlier, so I went through that green light, and before it turned yellow and turned red, and then I'm just like I am now, except I'm closer to my home than I am now, having stopped at this red light, and so on and so forth. And you can come up with so many different notions of things that could have split second moments where you could have made a slightly different decision, or somebody else in the world, somebody in one of these other cars could have made a slightly different decision, or left a little bit sooner or a little bit later, because somebody could have left a little bit later, or because he decided, or let's say a little bit sooner because he decided not to get into an argument with his wife, whereas in this reality he did get into an argument with his wife. So now he's gonna crash his car into me and kill me. I don't know why that all has to end with why so many of them have to end with me getting hurt or killed, but that's just the point. In these multiverses, it could be something dramatic, or it could be something infinitesimal, that the parallel universe between where I am now and the parallel universe where I sneeze in 2 seconds, which I'm not going to do now. See, I didn't sneeze, but there's no difference between that universe and this one, except that I sneezed in that one. And on it goes. So there's millions and billions and trillions, and it's infinite. There's an infinite number of parallel universes, and that sounds like, wow, that's so think of the vast number of worlds that there are, and all the crazy things that there's a world where the Nazis won World War II, and where the South won the Civil War, and there's a world where all the stuff we typically think of with alternative fiction, alternative realities, or alternate history, and then there are other scenarios where it's just like, this guy decided to wear his Nike T-shirt today instead of his Boston Red Sox T-shirt, and nothing else. It doesn't really change anything else, but it's different, so it has to become a universe of its own. To me, that's just it. It gets when there are so many choices, when there are so many different, when there's an infinite number of roads. It's just, there might as well be nothing. It just gets boring after a while. It's interesting to think about at first, but when you really get right down to it, it's just not that interesting. I think it's more interesting if you have two worlds, and only two. And this is something that I've worked with a little bit in my own fiction. Not that anybody would know, but I write fiction, and in some of them there's a parallel world. But in my fiction, there's all the what I think is more interesting is if there's one world. We think there's just one world, and then you find out that there's two worlds. Then you have, because with limitation, you have more of something that can really nail you down to something concrete, story-wise or concept-wise. And you can't just keep escaping into. You can't if in one universe you lose all your money, and your wife leaves you. You can't just escape into another universe where you get really, really rich and kick your wife out for being such a slut, such a whore, such a money grubber, and live the good life. It's not because it's not like you can't just have different things happening just at almost. It's like there's almost a randomness. There is a randomness to it, even though it's the opposite of random. It might as well just be random, because there's nothing really significant about these divergences. So instead of a multiverse, I like to work with a duoverse. Or a dual, would it be a dual verse? A biverse? instead of a universe. Instead of a heteroverse, a biverse. Anyway, I think that it's more interesting when there's just two. When there's this world and there's another world, and it's only this world and that other world, and not an infinite number of worlds. But that's just my thoughts on the subject. And I'm sure that the geniuses who get paid millions of dollars at Marvel Studios, and who so reliably make great entertainment that captivates so many people. I'm sure they know better than I do, because who the hell am I? But I'm just sharing my thoughts. Take it or leave it.